guys? Welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over this very entertaining email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy. He's 44 years old. He is a real estate investor. He's done extremely well for himself. Never married, no kid, anything like that. Living the life, a life that he created. And he shares a story about a gal he met many months ago that he really thought was a pretty good one. No red flags, nothing like that. Cute, fun, conservative, and all that. And then after a few months on the Super Bowl, then the crazy came out. And to a whole new level. Turns out she started doing some gold, not only is she a gold digger, but doing some serious snooping and stalking of him and everybody he knows, thinking, you're going to see what I'm talking about here. And it turns into one big, giant, hilarious mess. And it goes to show you guys why I tell you all the time that you need to do your homework on the gals you get involved with or date, that you need to spend many months before even considering getting into like an exclusive relationship with them, moving in, that type of thing. Remember, you only move them in if you think about marrying them, and that's after many years and all that. And it goes to show you just how many nut jobs are out there, and you got to be careful. But this is one of these stories. You learn some things, but really, this one is much more entertainment than learning stuff in it, which I think, let's be honest, majority are here for the entertainment. So definitely kick back. You really enjoy this one. So it starts off, he says here, Hi SSM. Please call me Steve. I'm 44 years old. I'm a real estate investor living in Ohio. I'm single, never been married, and have no kids. And let me guess, you're happy as a pig in crap. Welcome to the club. I do like your channels. I found the SSM channel during the lockdowns in 2020 and have been watching pretty religiously ever since. I was R-pilled long before then, but listening to your content is a good daily reminder that women are nuts and cannot be trusted. I would say overwhelmingly, probably the vast majority are, in varying degrees, yes. Not all, but the majority. Doesn't mean the small percent can't go that way if triggered the wrong way. It says here, many of the stories have given me insight on additional red flags to watch out for, etc., so thank you for what you do. I gave up a long time ago on approaching women altogether. I'm not afraid of them or anything, and I'm certainly no virgin. I was plenty busy in the late 90s and early 2000s, but since I turned about 30 years old, when it comes to women, the juice just stopped being worth the squeeze. Yep, that's what so many guys say, and you can't blame it. And believe me, I get it too, 100%. And so many people want to label guys like us as incels. They want to throw the insults our way. Believe me, plenty of dudes can get women. It's not a problem. They choose because they see what's out there. They choose the lifestyle they have now without relationships or girlfriends or wives or whatever because they see the reality. It's a mess. I'm sure some of your viewers would agree with that. Most ladies are just not worth the trouble. Well, we wouldn't call them ladies. Now, having said that, if a woman expresses interest in me, which does happen, but not all the time or anything, I will engage if I think she's cute and if there are no obvious red flags. Notice he said no obvious red flags. Admittedly, I am both a nerd and cheap, so I actually make use of my public library. I enjoy reading history, biographies, economics, finance, and so on. Well, dude, if that makes you a nerd, I'm right there with you. I enjoy reading and watching shows on all those subjects. At the library I go to, one of the librarians is a cute, conservative-looking, nerdy, hot librarian type. I would have guessed mid-20s, but it turned out she was actually 32 years old. She had cute librarian glasses and everything. Let's call her Susan. Okay, enter Susan into the story. Typically, I would hit the library on Saturday mornings, and last fall, while I was there, the first time I saw Susan. She has apparently worked there for a while, but was not usually scheduled on Saturdays until late last year. She'd make little comments about my books, and we became friendly and flirty. In December, she asked if I would like to go to a Christmas party with her. It says, honestly, SSM, a Christmas party with a bunch of city employees sounded pretty lame, but I figured, what the hell. The party was lame. It felt like the employees were forced to be there, but I enjoyed the company of Susan. Yeah, small price to pay to get some ass. So we went out 2 more times after Christmas, and on the 4th date, she came over to my house for the first time. There were no red flags at this point. We had a nice dinner that I made, and she spent the night. We went out to breakfast the next morning, and she commented that she liked my house, and that I have a lot of space for a bachelor. He says, SSM, my house is nothing special. It's a 16 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom ranch built in the late 1980s. Maybe that's a lot of space for a fellow bachelor with 2 cats. I don't know. Bro, you're a bachelor. It's a good size house. End of story. And if you're happy, that's all that matters. But being a real estate investor, I do know what I'm doing when it comes to buying homes. While my house might not be remarkable, I'm in a very desired suburb and I have the right zip code for the best schools in the area. I'm a native of another state, and in the course of a seemingly ordinary conversation, I mentioned that I bought the house when I moved to Ohio about 6 years ago. She seemed a little surprised and replied, "Oh, you own that house?" I said yes, and she explained that she was surprised and just assumed I was renting on account of being a bachelor and all. Guys, you can have single men can own their own houses, for goodness sake, and own a whole lot of houses. Now, this guy mentioned he's a real estate investor, and you're going to hear as he goes into his story, he's done extremely well for himself. And it comes from him being very smart, starting early in life, taking risks, and he mentioned he's cheap. Now, I'm not cheap. I'm frugal. I do enjoy myself. But this guy mentioned he's cheap. He said that. And if you're cheap and you like to build wealth, that can really come in handy in terms of you live cheap, you got more extra money to reinvest, blah, 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 and you'll see. Some quick additional background on me that will be relevant in a minute. I'm a commercial real estate investor. I have national chains as tenants, 7-Eleven, Applebee's, Family Dollar, etc. These types of investments are generally on what is called a triple net lease. And in theory, the landlord has no responsibilities. In theory. The tenant pays the taxes, the maintenance, etc. Very hands-off and very passive. But occasionally things do come up. Things always come up. Theoretically, all the landlord does is go to the mailbox once a month to grab the check. I also have absolutely zero debt on any of it at all, and my home is easily the least expensive piece of the property that I own. I've been basically semi-retired since I was 39 years old. I'm not saying any of this to sound like an a-hole, I promise. It'll be relevant in a moment. Yeah, so guys, he's not bragging here, doing this to be a jerk. He's trying to make the point which is going to lead into the story. I did not grow up a rich kid. My grandparents had 2 rental houses in the hood that they left me when my brother, and over the last 20 plus years, I have more than 25 times it through some hard work, brains, balls, and some big market swings. Also, quite frankly, never getting married, not having kids probably plays heavily into my net worth. As unlikely, I would have taken some of the risks I took if I had a family to support at the time. Okay, so this guy is loaded and has done fantastic. Now, I guarantee you there's going to be guys in the comment section that say, oh, this is bullshit, he's full of crap, you're being trolled, I'm not watching this anymore. Gentlemen, he's in his mid-40s. If you start young and you are smart and you are humble enough to take the advice of people that know more than you, have a mentor or mentors, and guide you in the right way, and you live cheap and you reinvest that consistently, and you're not pissing away money on chicks and expensive cars and that lifestyle, not to mention no marriage and kids, and he has brains and balls, yes, keep growing your wealth. In this case is real estate holdings. So it's certainly possible, and I think it's awesome. Good for him. Now, a little bit more about his lifestyle. He'll here to justify how he's done so well by his mid-40s. I generally shop at Walmart, and my daily driver is a 10-year-old American car with 210,000 miles on it. Okay, he ain't driving a fucking Ferrari, guys, and he ain't shopping at the most expensive place. He's going to Walmart. Yes, I have a few toys, but there's no Lamborghini or other opulence. I also don't really tell people what I do. I learned long ago people can get really weird about money. When someone asks, I just say I'm in commercial real estate, and for 8 out of 10 people, that sounds boring, and they don't ask any follow-up questions. They'll probably just assume I'm a broker, which I'm not, which will also be relevant in a moment. So, back to Susan. Okay, the cute librarian. January went smoothly, or so I thought. A few sleepovers and some very fun dates. I'm not really sure. I guess we were out 6 to 8 times total. My bros were curious to meet her. I hosted a Super Bowl party get-together at my house this year. 3 of my closest buddies, 2 are divorced, and 1 is still married. My married buddy has a totally cool wife that actually likes football, so she came as well. Let's call her Julia. Everyone wanted me to invite Susan so they could meet her. At this point, it had been about a month and a half of casual dating, so I figured why not. Probably a good idea for my friends to size her up and look for any red flags I might have missed before this turned into something more serious. Reasonable idea, and it's darn good that this happened. So guys, remember, he's been seeing her a few months at this point, 6 to 8 dates, they've hooked up several times, but I tell you guys, you need to spend many, many months with your girl that you're dating before you actually get serious in a committed relationship, because people can put on an act and who they are. I did a whole video on this yesterday about a young guy asking me because his girlfriend was trying to rush him into a relationship. But you give it time, their true colors will come out eventually. And oh, do the true colors come out here. So I called Susan and invited her to the Super Bowl party, which at this point was still about 2 weeks away. We had a couple more sleepovers and dates in the time between the invite and the game day. Everything seemed good. She legit seemed excited to meet everyone. We all got together a couple hours before the game, and Susan showed up on time, but something was noticeably bothering her. She was very cold to me, but polite to everyone else. Okay. At that point, I would corner her. Okay, what's on your mind? Blah, 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 blah. Well, lose the fucking attitude towards me, or you're out of here. The next couple hours, we were a tad awkward, but she was talking to Julia and eating and drinking and seemingly having an okay time. But I kept getting this stink eye from her. I wouldn't be tolerating this bullshit. Whoosh, go home. I figured we'd talk after the game. Why risk making a scene and ruining everybody's good time, right? Then, in the first commercial break of the second quarter, a commercial ran. I can't remember what it was, for credit cards, Doritos, who knows, but one of my buddies laughed at the girl in the commercial and said she looked like an ex-girlfriend, Kristen. It was nothing bad. No one was talking shit on the girl on the ad or anything like that, and everyone was just kind of laughing at the coincidence because it did bear a resemblance to Kristen. When I looked over at Susan, she was glaring at me. I said teasingly, "Don't be jealous. I haven't spoken to Kristen in almost 20 years." She replied nastily, "Kristen, huh? I would have guessed Catherine." This guy's probably like, who the fuck is Catherine? He says, SSM, I've never dated or slept with a Catherine. I had no clue what she was talking about. I asked her what she meant by that, and she replied, "Stop the act. I know all about Catherine. I've known for weeks. Oh, and I also know you don't own this house. Catherine does." This guy's probably like, are you off your freaking meds? What the hell are you talking about? I was bewildered. My friends and I looked at each other. My one buddy's mom is Kathy. Could this be what Susan was about? So confusing. I'm also friends with Catherine on Facebook. We went to elementary school together, but I haven't seen her in person since the late 1990s. Who was Catherine? Well, guys, I'm going to stop right there and say, this is why you don't bring your girl to the fucking Super Bowl, the Super Bowl party. As I told you a minute ago, I am not a real estate broker, but Julia is. She's an excellent residential agent and brokered the deal when I bought my house. Julia then looked at Susan and said, "I'm not sure why it matters or why it's any of your business, but Steve owns this house. I brokered the deal." Susan then got nastier and told Julia to shut the fuck up, not to cover my lying ass, and that girls had to stick together against lying men. Remember, Julia is the cool wife of one of his buddies here. Susan then turned to me and demanded to know who Catherine was. My wife, my mother, my landlord. So, someone is obviously nuts and digging dirt on this guy. Dirt she thinks is accurate. Little gold digger's mad in her mind that this house isn't his, at least in her opinion. When she said landlord, that's when it clicked. This little librarian has gotten nosy and started looking at property records. The county treasurer and county assessor's office are right next door to the library. In my state, and most states, oftentimes a property owner can be easily looked up on the tax assessor's website or at their office. It's public information in most states. Yep. She's doing her homework on you. Sizing you up. She's investing her time and her pussy on you, and she wants to make sure you own the house, damn it. When it clicked while she was asking about Catherine, I just instinctively went into business mode. I didn't raise my voice or go irate or anything, but my demeanor and tone changed instantly to something that she has never seen from me before. My eyes narrowed as I glared at her smug face. She had this look of arrogance like she just solved a giant mystery and caught me with my pants down. I then said, "Gee, been having fun at the assessor's office, have we?" Everyone else in the room was completely confused, except Julia, the real estate agent. Julia and I made eye contact for a moment, and I could tell from her face that it had just clicked for her too. She just turned and looked at Susan with a grin on her face. When Susan saw Julia's grin, I thought she started to realize what maybe she'd screwed up, but nope. Instead, she doubled down on her crazy. Of course she did. Before she could speak, I jumped in. "Well, sweetie, let me teach you a little bit about real estate. If you own your own home outright, that is, if you have no mortgage, you're basically an idiot if you keep your home in your personal name. For asset protection purposes, it should be in a trust or possibly an LLC." My cute little conservative librarian, who suddenly had the vocabulary of a drunken sailor, interrupted, "I don't need a fucking real estate lesson from you. I can read a fucking property records. Who the fuck is Catherine? Answer me now, you fuck." It's the quiet ones, the librarians, huh? I rolled my eyes at her and continued. Had you bothered to read the line under the name Catherine, you would have seen the word trustee. Susan interrupted again. "That doesn't make sense. Title would have the name of the trust. You're a liar. And who the fuck is Catherine?" So Julia chimed in. "In the state of Ohio, trusts do not have to be public record to hold title to real estate. For privacy reasons, most people, like Steve, simply put the name of the trustee of the trust." Susan then shouts, "That still doesn't explain who the fuck Catherine is." I spoke up again and calm but sternly said, "Title to this house is held in a land trust. I am the beneficiary. The beneficiary of a land trust cannot also be the trustee." More livid Susan screams, "Who is Catherine, you lying fucks?" Man, mouth on her. I looked at her and calmly said, "Catherine is my real estate attorney and also the trustee of the trust that holds title to this house." Your friends are like, "The fucking game is on. Will you assholes get out of here?" That didn't go too well. I was still apparently lying. One of my buddies joked, "This is better than the game." Here comes the scary part, SSM. She'd been sitting on this information for weeks. Anyway, weeks. Playing it cool, sleeping with you and all that, just waiting for a moment to try to embarrass you and humiliate you in front of all your friends. For a week, she was acting normal and sleeping over like everything was cool. She waited on purpose to drop this in public, convinced that I was married or lying or whatever, and she made a stealing my Verizon bill out of my mailbox to try to figure out who Catherine was. She actually admitted that she went to your mailbox and stole your mail out of there. Please tell me somebody was recording that, because last time I checked, that's a federal offense. So she connected one of the numbers to Catherine's cell phone using some lookup service online that she paid for. As Susan explained all that, everyone was thinking it. Psycho. The month before, with all the phone calls on my bill, Catherine and I were working on a lease extension for a tenant. "Did you think to Google her?" I asked. I then brought up Catherine's law firm on my phone. Here she is, partner at a big firm in Cincinnati. Susan snapped back. "That doesn't mean you're not screwing her." Even if he was, they aren't an official relationship technically. So, My response was, "Yeah, you caught me. I'm driving across the state several times a week to bone a 60-year-old lawyer." What about all the calls Susan demanded? "Who talks to a lawyer that much?" I replied, "Catherine bills out at $580 an hour. Do you honestly think I'm calling her to chit-chat?" Susan then continued to explain that I'm full of shit. Up until this point, Susan had assumed that I was a leasing agent or property manager or something like that. I had given her my typical, "I'm in commercial real estate" answer, what I do for a living, and she never asked any questions beyond that, and it was way too easy to volunteer any such information. Then Julia dropped the bomb on Susan. Who talks to lawyers that much? Real estate investors with a portfolio the size of his do. Julie was not wrong. Legal is easily my biggest expense most years. Julie continued. Do you know he owns that building of XYZ national fast food chain one town over? Then Julie really laid in. Wow, did you really just F up? Maybe don't be so nosy and gold-digging WHORE with the next guy, just a thought. I like Julia. I thank Susan for showing me how crazy she is this early on, so I didn't waste much more time with her. I told her to leave. She looked around the room at all of us with tears in her eyes and said, look, it was a mistake. Hobag Handbook Chapter 2 and Hobag Handbook Chapter 3. Of course the waterworks are going. Mistake. She deliberately committed a criminal act, a crime, by stealing your mail out of your mailbox. Yeah, real smart of her to say that. Did all this stuff, plotted and schemed, planned it, embarrassing in front of everybody, all that. A mistake? No, this is well calculated. I told her just to stop talking and leave. Full on crying at this point, she slammed my front door and backed out of my driveway like a bat out of hell. And ran right into the fire hydrant across the street from my house. Please tell me at this point you have your phones on record. So we all went outside to see what was happening, and she was looking at her car and screaming. Then water suddenly started spraying out from the hydrant. The police came. The fire department came. Poor public work guys had to miss the second half of the game and come out to shut off the water. Well, they didn't miss anything. Taylor Swift singing at the Super Bowl and all. No, she didn't sing at the Super Bowl. She was just there and all the fucking drama with Taylor Swift. 2 houses across the street then did not have water for a day and a half. Oh my God, I'd be fuming. The cops initially thought she was drunk given how hysterical she was, and of course she had to point at me and yell, "It's all that cheating asshole's fault." Cops are like, oh God. What an ordeal. Susan got cited for reckless driving. I imagine she had some restitution to pay the city for the broken hydrant, but I really don't know what the outcome of all that was. And of course, needless to say, I blocked her number in social media. I might mention about the whole stealing your mail thing, but then again, I'm a vindictive bastard to assholes that cross me. While nosy, looking things up at the assessor's office didn't really bother. It is public record. Had she approached me and just told me what she saw and asked about it, I almost certainly would have just explained. The fact that she sat on it for weeks, stole my phone bill, cyberstalked my lawyer, and then tried to shame me publicly, all while acting like nothing was wrong for weeks, is completely psycho. And not 2 months early, she was this cute, sweet, conservative little librarian. Wow. Well, I have found it's always the little ones, the tiny gals, that are the craziest. That's been my experience, you know. I mean, yeah, all the craziest gals I've ever known in my life, and you can always tell by their eyes, are petite, and lots of them are named Jessica. Every Jessica I've ever known is nuts. I've not heard from Susan. Oh, I'm sure you have not. I did upgrade my home security given how crazy she apparently is. She hasn't tried to come over or anything, thank God. However, she has contacted Julia a couple times. Julia, being a real estate agent, is very easy to find and get a hold of. She was asking her things like, how is Steve? Do you think he'll forgive me? And how do I fix this? Julia took her first 3 calls purely for fishing and entertainment purposes. She has since blocked her too. What a psycho. You might feel like Julie was out of line to talk about business that is not hers, but it is fine. The fact that I have a few bucks wasn't news to any of my friends. We're all successful in our own right. One is starting a promising business, one is a cardiologist, and the other is an IT security or something like that. We honestly don't even understand what he does anymore, but he makes more than the cardiologist, and drives a car that's older than mine. 2 of them make more money than me, but don't have my net worth. So you're asset rich, cash poor, one of those typical real estate situations. I'm also taxed much more favorably than them. Last time we talked about it, they gross more, but I take home more. We joke about that a lot, especially when it comes to time to pick up the tab at the restaurant. He says, another YouTuber I watch is Aaron Clary. If you're not familiar, he's a former economist turned author and manosphere YouTuber. I'm convinced his book, The Book of Numbers, is correct. Using math and data from dating sites, he concluded in his book that only about 2% of women are marriage material. Sounds about right to me. Anyway, that's my story. Please keep doing what you do. Bro, that was a great story. And I can see why you have no interest in marriage, relationships, all that, aren't actively pursuing. A pretty girl crosses your path, she likes you, you give her a shot. But I like so much, on so many levels here, how when this whole thing went down, you were calm, went into business mode, and just let her to continue embarrassing herself. Holy crap. And also, I like that you didn't rush into a relationship with her or move her in or anything like that. You took your time. That's why you do it, guys, because eventually the crazy will come out, if indeed there's crazy, or just red flags and other bad behavior. So there you go. So, bro, great story, very entertaining, one of the more funny, entertaining ones I've covered in a little while now, and a congratulations on your success. I believe you've done very well for yourself. I don't believe it's bullshit at all, but this is what happens. He did inherit a couple properties, he said, he and his brother, but by starting young and living cheap. I don't live cheap. I'm frugal, but I'm not cheap. There's different categories, in my opinion. There's frugal, there's thrifty, and there's cheap. And there's really fucking cheap. But that's your life. And all the extra money you save, you reinvest. And you're doing great. And you have the right people pointing in the right direction. And there you go. So I'm really proud of you. And you're living life exactly as you want. So anyhow, guys, great story here. And definitely give them a shout out. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. I just said that. And guys, you have a great story to share. Definitely email me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it. I will when I can. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.